Hello, welcome everybody. Alana and Jacqueline. We're on episode 27. When do we use our voice versus like silence and reflection? So with Jacqueline and Alana and I getting together, our intention is to have conversations that we don't normally have, that aren't out there in the universe or the world or transpiring, especially the way the universe or the oneness in the world feels. And it's heart-filled conversations where we're going in and experiencing different views. We're experiencing the difference between maybe listening and being felt, right? We don't always take that time to be listened to and then feel what somebody might be sharing in a conversation. So welcome, Alana. Will you take a moment and let us know of the magic that you provide for everybody?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Alana Heim, and my business is Prosperity Alignment. I'm a cosmic prosperity activator. And really, what I've found is having been in the financial industry, we focus a lot on the external aspects of money and finance. And really, it's time to turn inward to focus more on the currency, the inner wealth within us. And when you know more of who you are, you show up in the world more authentically. And to me, prosperity is everything. So, whatever it is that you're seeking out here, it's already here. And when we start to reverse that order, right, and start seeking from within, now we can create really anything our heart desires.
Yes. Thank you, Alana. I love what you do. And that's the thing. We are taught by society to receive or expect everything outside of us when everything that we desire is within and it's not separate than us. And it's remembering that and bringing it back to us. So thank you, Alana, for all the magic and love and intention you have with everything that you do. Jacqueline?
Yes, hi ladies. So happy to be with you today. I'm Jacqueline Kane. I help people get to the root cause of their physical, emotional, and financial pain so that they can finally be authentically themselves and create the lives that they desire, not just for themselves, but for their family and for generations coming forward. Um, I use a lot of energy techniques, ancestral energy clearing, inner child healing, and voice dialogue with those inner saboteurs that keep us off track. And it's just fun when people are able to shift and really attract what they desire. So I'm happy to be here.
I love what you do, Jacqueline. And you do it with so much love and compassion and intention and um, provide so many healing modalities and different ways to do it. And having people understand, right? It can be generational, ancestral, or we can have saboteurs within ourselves and, clearing that all up. And for souls that may be watching, right? A lot of this could seem like, oh, that seems like a lot, or I'm not sure, but my curiosity is really spiked and I'd like to learn more. And we can feel that the unknown is something that we might think, ooh, we don't want to get into that or fear it, or again, society, something that we don't know can feel fearful. And we are all divine souls having a human experience. And that's what we're to do is to take as much as we can when we're here to evolve our soul. And when something feels like, ooh, the unknown, what about, you know, talking to your nervous system? Kind of like, oh, relax. This could be like joyful. It could be fun. It could be, I have curiosity and wonder and surprise, like how we used to when we were a child. So thank you very much, Jacqueline and Alana. And I am Sunshine Lane from Infinity Soul Connection. I'm an international medium, energy healer, and soul spiritual life coach. And I do everything I do out of the pure love and pure acceptance. And a big part of it is to remember that we're unique souls, right? We're all here doing, the same thing, but on separate journeys. And, we're soul first before we have this vessel and this vehicle, and we can disconnect through life experiences from our other bodies and systems, right? Our soul body, like our spiritual body our physical or mental or emotional, and our ether body, which is energy. And it's always constantly changing, but we fight so hard to remain the same, or this is who kind of thing, and not take in those changes. But if we just look at the physical body, there's no scientific thing that can remain the same throughout a day, right? Our cells are changing, our blood, our oxygen, we cannot remain the same. And we've just been conditioned to. So today, with when do we use our voice versus that silence and that reflection? So I'd like to go around and share that, a personal experience that we've had where we've really felt that, whew, we desire to use our voice, right? We have to speak what we're feeling. So, Alana, would you like to start with that today?
Yeah, today I want to start with the human design piece. Human design is an astrology-based tool that I use a lot. And what's really cool is just kind of looking at the dynamics of energy, how we each operate. And the three of us actually are all right angle crosses. What does that mean? It means we always start within. So if something happens, it's like we go within first, and we already are kind of looking for that reflective energy. We're probably a little bit in silence, or we just go inward before we go outward. And the only difference between myself and both of you is this first piece, we go inward. And for both of you, the second piece, you then go outward, right? You're seeking others, you're taking all of that inner wisdom, and you're then going to apply it out in the world. And for me, I actually stay inward. And so it's very interesting because I tend to stay in silence more than I should. I tend to just keep reflecting more than I should. And I'm really waiting for someone to say, hey, what do you think? And help pull it out of me. And that doesn't always happen. And so I bring this up just because, as much as there are a lot of outward people, so there's going to be the left angle crosses, they start outward, right? The first thing they're going to do is they're going to get triggered by the world around them. There's a lot of shit going on to trigger you out in the world. So it's like all this stuff hits, right? And you're going to be out here until you then go inward. And they're already going to be more, not always, but sometimes it feels like they're going to just voice what they're saying. And there's different people who have, a motorized throat or a defined throat, and I have an undefined throat. So I'm even more inward and quiet and, just seeking anybody to say, hey, and help pluck it out of me. And oftentimes when I feel like I should speak more and I have all this wisdom and I have all this insight, when I share it, people aren't always ready for it. And, then I get kind of that backlash or that proof of like, see, I should just hide away and stay quiet. And there's a place for all of it. There are definitely times when you could prove you're right, but nobody needs to hear that. And it's okay to just hold it in. And I think the part for me that I've recognized is I I sit in silence. I lean into it. I stay quiet, but it's that nagging piece that when something just keeps coming, like, oh, I need to have this conversation with my mom and I haven't, because there's sometimes it's like it's not the right time, but then it starts to build. And I feel like that's the moment when something just keeps building, even for us that are, quiet, it starts to want to really get big. And that's when it can, for me especially, it can come out volcanically. I'm erupting. I have waited far too long. The nagging was there. I still didn't just say, hey, I really need you to listen. I need to have this conversation. There's something important for me to say. And I think that's the dance, right? Because I can see the reverse. There could be people who are constantly blah, blah, like vomiting everywhere. And it takes that awareness to go, wait a minute, I didn't hear from this person. I wonder what they could have contributed. And for us to be in that dance of allowing people, especially when they are silent, pull them out. They need that hand. They really are asking, even if they're not verbally saying, hey, I just want to be heard and seen. But there's so much of my life where it just, I feel invisible. And even when I try and speak, someone is just runs over me like a train. And it's like, okay. And I go back to being quiet. So that balance, that dance, with also the awareness and just seeing, right? We're all very intuitive. We can feel another person. And if you can feel that they're just kind of like disassociating, checking out, they don't want to be there. They probably did at one point, but you lost them because you don't care. You just have to share what you think is so important. And we we had a dinner recently with someone that just talked to talk. And it was like, oh, okay, one of those, right? I'm instantly like, I'm always the person that like listens, but then I get sucked in and there, and then I always feel like, oh, I can't get out, or I'm not going to say a word. So I'm just constantly nodding like a bobblehead. And it's like, it's not fun for me. So I don't know. That's just something that I've noticed personally, in my life and how I value silence. And sometimes I wish the rest of the world did too.
Thank you, Alana, for sharing. And I love the way you share and do human design. And I really cherish that. And I love your self inner awareness and knowing about yourself and others through human design. And I love how you spoke on, okay, you really desire and take in the stillness and being silent. Um, and like you mentioned, right, when somebody is silent and listening and hearing, but not always sharing and expressing, right, to step in and ask, right? A lot of people, they're desiring to be felt, right? Not
Mm.
only listened to or heard, but really felt um, on a pure level that way. And I love how you've shared throughout your lifetime that how you can see that going within, right? A lot of things have went by, but yet using your voice and coming out, still things have went by too, right? So it's that thin line, it's that thin veil of when do we speak, right? And use our energy versus being silent and reflecting. And when do we conserve that life force? And when do we give our energy, right? Like to a certain thing. We could feel at times that, oh my goodness, like you say, something, you spoke about not sharing, and then sometimes you won't be your true self when it comes out, right? It's just a kind of thing, and then maybe there's shame, maybe there's guilt for some people in that. But what was the intention, right? It gets you maybe to a place or us to a place where we're in our conditioned self and not connected to that authentic soul self. And then it brings up so many other feelings. So I love our conversation so much so far today, right? Because it's like, do we put energy into, banging our head off a brick wall kind of thing and not getting anywhere except feeling not like ourselves, or that it's repetitive, or the other person might be in denial? Um, or so when do we use that voice and when do we reflect and be in silence? So thank you so much, Alana. Jacqueline, what would you like to share?
Oh, so much wealth of knowledge. So, first, I love Sunshine when you said the desire to be felt. I believe every human being has that desire to be seen and heard and loved and appreciated. Um, but for some reason, we're not, right? And I know growing up, I was that shy little girl. I had siblings that were louder, that um, were able to be seen and heard for just being themselves. And for some reason, I adopted the beliefs that I wasn't, that nobody saw me, and that why speak up? What, who knows why but that's how I felt, right? And so I didn't realize how deep it was until I started opening up my own business. when it's really important to be seen and heard, right? If you're trying to run a business, and realize that people, I would say something and somebody would comment and say somebody else said it. That's to the level of disconnect I was from being seen and heard. And fortunately, at that time, I was hiring coaches and mentors and who brought me to this attention of why that was happening. Um, and that it's not good. And then teaching me ways to like stand more in my power. And now that I work with a lot of women, there's a lot of women, we're not standing in our power. And if we're trying to run a business and be seen and heard, it comes across as nagging, right? So that you're looked at not how you want to be looked at. And when we do, absolutely, Alana, when we respond, I would be told I have a tone, right? That tone is from years and decades of not being seen, not being heard. And I love how, Alana, you just said, just pull those people in, right? Most of us want to actually be called on, but we're too shy. We're not the extrovert in the crowd. And we really would love to be asked our opinion. Um, but that doesn't usually happen because there are so many other people who are hogging all the attention, right? Um, but it would be nice if more people were invited to speak and share and just acknowledge. And so just bringing attention to this, for you, those of you who are watching and listening, are there people in your life who are kind of, they sit behind the scenes, they don't say too much, but when they do, they have something important to say. And can we invite those people a little bit more and acknowledge them for just bringing their energy, their presence to any environment, which just may open them up to using their voice a little bit more.
Oh, thank you, Jacqueline. Oh, I can feel everything that you're saying. And you brought up it's so, so, so much, right? On, we do, like everybody has so much worth and value and to share, but it's through that human experience, like you were sharing about your childhood, that, somewhere you ended up feeling suppressed, right? You
Yeah.
ended up feeling smaller. You ended up feeling like what you um, were desiring to share didn't matter. And that happens to so many of us through our experiences in life. And that's how we get disconnected, right, from that going within or our soul self or different bodies and systems and can start running just in that physical body. And it overrules all the other bodies and systems. And having that intention and that awareness when we're younger, but then we're suppressed, right, through different experiences. It could be, like you specialize in generational patterns, ancestral patterns, right? Masculine and feminine, like the female and the male, right? Or being a child, right? We might have been in that lifetime where it was like children aren't to be heard, they're to be seen, right? I imagine we've all heard that, and it can just turn into this ball that goes outside of ourselves that is nothing to do with the core of our soul and who we really, really are. So thank you for sharing, and it makes a really big difference when we can speak our truth. And I find with if we even take it back a little bit and we just think of partners and spouses or relationships outside of that too, when we start to express how we're feeling because of an experience or just because of how we're feeling, right? It can automatically go for that other person to receive as a defensiveness, right? When really all it is to express how we're feeling, right? And what is there so we can express and, you know, have healthy conversation and let it go. But a lot of people sometimes aren't looking for that response. They're just wanting to be felt or desire to be felt. and heard. And I think so much of our communication has been lost that way, right? All we would like to do is to express and be ourselves. And for a lot of us, that word you use, Alana, understanding, right? We're just
Mhm.
spinning and spinning and spinning, and we're not going within at all. With our conversation that we've been having today, some of the things are coming up for me, more recent experiences, and there's a lot of times in life that say outside of your home or outside of your comfort zone, you might be put into a situation. Say if it's a medical system, our medical system that's kind of like breaking down in that matrix. It might be something medically for ourselves. And say we're doing holistic things, or maybe not, we're just doing the medical thing. And sometimes when we're in it, we might need that person outside of us to be the voice to keep the core of everything going so it doesn't get, lost out from unraveling. Or say if you've had somebody in the hospital system for a long time, and when you're um, in a situation, somebody outside of you, or if it was you personally, that those pieces when you're in the hospital and say there's no windows or you have maybe a window or you moved around, your life is, say, the hospital in the medical field. But you may need that or desire or not even acknowledge that you might need that person to be that voice to keep all those pieces together, right? So there's lots of situations we have outside of our homes, outside of our, it might be a business, it might be working for somebody else, that we may feel that it might not be directed at our journey itself, but we may feel that we have to use our voice to keep those pieces from unraveling too far from the core. So that's a situation that I was just thinking of that came up on like, oh, other people might not think that you should be involved or that you should be using your voice or why are you speaking this over and over again. And say people can assume the medical system knows everything. This is what they specialize in. But right? You need somebody with that voice so things can keep aligned. And if something's not resonating or aligning, keep using your voice in certain situations, even if it's not necessarily your journey. If it's not necessarily your journey, when it comes to silence and reflection, there'll be treasures and gifts and lessons there too. So, a lot of times that we may be told or stated to, like, stay out of it. What are you doing? You're in the way, or whatever it may be. But if it's inside of you and you're in your intuition, then keep being yourself and keep sharing, right? Make sure you know where that your intention is. Um, you know, are you in your conditioned self or are you in your soul self? Are you building and building and building, like Alana said, right? Building up so much that it just comes out as right kind of thing, and then you're not yourself. Um, is the person that you're speaking to, are they in denial? Right? Say if it's somebody with an abusive relationship and you've been supporting them in many different angles and different ways for a very long time, and every time it happens, you are there, but you can start becoming so drained that you're not yourself anymore, right? So that would be a situation. Do you continue to use your voice or do you go into silence and reflection and help in a different way, right? Because there's more ways to help and support other than physically using your voice. So thank you everybody for sharing what we've shared so far. So is there a situation that you can think of, Alana, that sat right with you when it came to not using your voice and sitting in silence and reflection?
I have those moments all the time. I'm like almost most experiences. It's kind of like I even was on a radio show and just last week and just sharing and expressing, right? And until I said something that clearly triggered the guy, and then he like I could feel the energy change, and it was like, okay, like we're not going to go there, because to me, I know that there can be the healthy conversation and the healthy debate, but when I can already feel your triggered energy is volatile, let's say, I'm not going to engage. I just won't.
Hmm.
So I'm going to stay silent. I'm going to just hold back because I already know you're looking for a fight. And to me, this is very indicative of most conversations, especially when it's heated on the topics you shouldn't talk about, like sex, money, religion, politics, or what's going on in the world. There, again, whether it's somebody who is just explosive already, they just have to get it out, but they're willing to take it out on anybody. I'm going to stay quiet. I'm going to go, oh, okay. And I'm just going to listen because I already know you're not in a place to hear my words. You're not going to receive whatever I say. And if I am across the aisle from you, why do I need to share? You're not here to have a dialogue and a ping pong game of let's go back and forth. You're here to blast me. And I think that's probably why people love to just spew all over me because I do allow it. Because I also know um, it's not about me. And so that's something that I am learning that I still need to put up the boundary and also say when I'm done, that I don't have to just keep taking it and listening. And, I'm very open-minded, and I think it's part of my moon in Aquarius where I can almost kind of detach emotionally. And it's not that I'm not there. I see the world differently. And so when we all have different opinions, to me it's not a place to have a fight. I'm just like, "Oh, that's interesting." Right? Like I can see it, but I can also see how the world is very narrow-minded and they just see the one track because it's all they've known. And they don't necessarily know how to expand and they don't necessarily want to. And so for me personally, I'll just stay quiet, right? I'm not going to puff myself up and start to point out all these pieces because they're not where I am. And whatever I say is just going to be totally missed. It's going to be misread. It's going to be misunderstood. And then what will happen in that moment is I will actually do more harm to myself. I will continually waste my precious energy on someone who is not ready to receive it, right? I will be tuned into a different radio frequency, a different station. They're going to be somewhere else, and we're not going to mix. And so in those moments, I can just kind of smile and know that this is how life is. And in that regard, I think sometimes me choosing silence is actually the best thing that I can do because otherwise I'm just going to stir the pot and we're going to get all riled up and emotions and more spewing. And then you don't get anywhere. In the end, everybody feels like not good, like I'm not going to be heard. So I'm not going to engage. So I think just in the way of life, or especially when someone's just really passionate, I love to still ask questions. But there's also been moments when like we were going to go to Oregon and we told someone and they were like immediately like, do you know Antifa's there? And I'm like, okay, right? Like, because as much as we fear the unknown, there's also great curiosity in the unknown. Just because you know something and I don't doesn't mean I need to get all defensive, like, but here's what I know. I can just listen and allow you to share and tell me your perspective. And then I still get to choose whether I agree or not, or maybe think you're crazy or not, and I don't need to voice that. I can just kind of sit with it and go, huh, this is the dance of the world. We're all different. Everyone's truth is their truth. I'm not here to speak my truth just to make you feel bad or prove you wrong. But I think there's a lot of people that do that.
Mm.
Yes. Oh, Helena, thank you. I can feel so much with your sharing and having healthy boundaries, like you mentioned, right? And knowing, okay, I'm going in with this intention, but this isn't the intention of why I thought I was here, right? It's going in a different direction, but yet choosing to have the healthy boundaries and not personalize it and not know that you're not being felt and heard. And so many of us will fall into conversations like that and not remain and not be ourselves. Just like Jacqueline, you had mentioned, I think last episode, right? Like so many people are striving for you're wrong and I'm right, right? And that drama. And like you said, Alana, something that's always been there. It's what people know and stepping into something different than that and the unknown with curiosity and wonder and surprise and surrounding ourselves with relationships and people, right? That we can be ourselves and that aren't going to say, oh, Miss, no, it all, right? You're just higher up than everybody, or however it may carry on. And why put energy and life force into it if you can feel that you've walked into or there's a situation that's just caca and shit and vomit. And that's all that their intention seems to be that they want to spew all over you. And why put ourselves in that situation? But we will walk into situations and we have choices when we go into that, right? And unfortunately, right, Alana, with what you were sharing, that that person or those souls will not have another opportunity, right, to listen and to feel you and to have you express and share your wisdom, your curiosity, right? Everybody that we surround ourselves with should be some form of an equal contribution or an equal relationship, right? It shouldn't be one-sided. And when we walk into where it's just caca and vomit and shit all over us, then, right, we're not going to expose ourselves to that anymore. But with a lot of relationships with people, they do that on a daily basis, right? And do allow that. And that just takes us further and further away from ourselves, right? And we will reach a point at some level that we will have to make a choice, right? On this doesn't feel good. I do desire to be me. So, Alana, thank you so, so, so much for sharing your experience. And then, why put your life force, right? Why put our energy into something like that when it's not going anywhere? And it's through experiences we learn that. So, thank you so, so much, Jacqueline.
Oh my God, so much here, right? Like, and thank you both for just being so honest. Um, so I've learned, right? Like, I think before I did my own personal development work, um, I felt like the need to be heard, right? So I'd say things. And again, Alana, us projectors, we won't get seen, we won't get appreciated. And then I'm like, why? Somebody said, don't waste your wisdom on people who aren't ready to hear it. And I was like, wow, that's so brilliant, right? And it's funny now to see all these people who have to be right. And I'm in the healthcare field. And have you noticed that all of a sudden everybody's a doctor? If somebody comes in with a headache or doesn't feel good, like the engineer or the roofer is going to tell you what you should do. And I'm like, wow, hmm. It's funny, nobody's asking the one who really helps people get out of pain, right? Because everybody's pushing their agenda. So yeah, I've learned to just, I don't say anything anymore, and I don't even feel bad about it. You don't get to hear my wisdom unless it's the right environment. And it's pretty powerful to be able to do that instead of feeling like I got to jump in and somebody needs to know. I'm like, no, no, not even worth it. Um, and this whole, with everything going on in the world right now, everybody's like, well, which side are you on? You're this or you're that. And, I have family members who feel the need to go on some social platforms and give their opinion, right? And stick up for certain people. And I think I'm so torn. I mean, what's happening right now? it does kind of remind me of things that happened many, many years ago, right? So, do you say something? Don't you say something? If you do say something, you're only opening yourself up for those people who want to fight. And I don't want that. I'm not here just to fight. I want solutions and answers. I hate, and I know that's a strong word, but stop the fighting. Fighting never gets us anywhere, right? And we can be very powerful by being quiet and by being in our power instead of this need to control and take over. So it's very interesting to watch people who don't say anything and watch the people who have so much to say.
Mm.
Right? Um, and where's the balance in between to letting everybody just be comfortable with what they believe in? And yeah, absolutely. Life is for experiencing life. I remember when I was meditating and going to the yoga center, and my relatives would be like, "Oh, that's a cult. It's this, it's that." It's like you go to church every week. You could call that a cult, right? You could. I remember listening to church on the car one day in the radio, and I was like, boy, that sounds cultish. But even I was in that cult, right? So I'm not judging. It's just what are we judging as a cult and what's not a cult? It just depends on how it makes you feel. And I'm okay with whatever makes you feel really good and being a nice person and hoping for more and helping more people. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yes. Oh, I love your sharing, Jacqueline. There's so much there, right? On, you had spoke about too on, you know, maybe we feel judgmental sometimes, but a lot of times when we're doing our inner work and journey, it's not judging someone else. It's actually our own self-awareness, right? Because if we tune in, like you said, meditation, you know, we can ask, oh, are we being judgmental here? And most of the times you probably hear that, no, you've already did that. You've already went down that road. You can replay it with somebody else. Or you can just take it as inner knowledge, right? And a deeper understanding, as you would say, Alana. And, there's no sense on feeling suppressed or we can't be ourselves or fighting with somebody that is just kind of putting us and pressing us down, right? Well, why continue on that road when we can access something totally different and not feel that way at all? So thank you, Jacqueline. I know you spoke about so much. And yeah, it's just sometimes we may think, oh my goodness, I just don't understand others, right? If they're saying that they're, really against this or what's happening, but yet they're feeding it so much on a daily basis, right? And it's coming from a place of hatred. It's coming from a place of resentment. It's coming from a place of anger and frustration. Um, and is that what we desire to put out into that oneness? Is that what we really desire to like feed out there? No, right? So if we're getting caught up in that, then we are just feeding that cookies and treats and chocolates to get bigger out there in the world instead of what do we really feel, right? How are we going to approach this from a different intention? To love and to heal, to evolve it. And so thank you, Jacqueline, so much for sharing. So I'm going to share a little personal story that recently happened about 3.5 weeks ago. So my eldest daughter and my grandbaby, I had a visit with them for a week. And it was the first time I was leaving on a train, and it was the first time ever that I never say goodbye to my grandbaby. I'm always like, I'll see you again. We're under the same moons and stars, and you know, that soul connection. And he looked at me, and those silent crocodile tears came down, and then he wouldn't look at me, right? And I went in every angle I could crawl into the car, trying to be like, hey, it's okay, right? We'll see each other again. absolutely didn't want anything to do with me. So it was getting to be, a couple weeks, and we always FaceTime. We'll FaceTime a couple times a day because that's the way they live far away. That's the way we stay connected. And he would run and hide. He would start to cry, right? He'd hide under things. And I thought, for me, it's an prime thing that I've just experienced where using my voice wasn't going anywhere. It was causing more harm for him, right? Um, I could feel it was his first like heart break almost for whatever reason that time. And how am I going to find resolve with this? I'm missing my little grandbaby. I'm just loving him. I'm I'm thinking and feeling I'm choosing the right words, but it was hurting him even more. So I was like, okay, so what do I do? I always talk about how we have different bodies and systems, right? Physical, emotional, mental, spiritually, and ether. And we get so caught up on, physically if we have something to say, right? We may say it, we may not say it. But there's that soul level too. So I asked his mom, I could have went in and directly did it with him. But I asked his mom, is it okay if I go and visit him on a soul level? And she's like, yeah, sure, do whatever you need to do. Because I was missing him so much and I just felt like I was causing so much pain. And so I went in, and we always forget to see this. It's like we always forget this piece, right? That we think, oh, we need to be in person, or we maybe have to be on the phone to find resolve. But there's that soul level, right? So I just went and knocked on his soul. Hey, it's Nancy. Can I come in? Yes, 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 I'll come in. And I'm, apologize that his heart has been hurting and that I miss him, but we're always together, right? And went into more detail on a soul level. And that very next day, who FaceTimed me, completely different than what he's ever been for like 2.5, 3 weeks, right? Until I went on the train. So we can do so much, right? From other than just the physical level. Right. So I'm so glad to be able to see him, to watch him play, to be able to have his little conversations and not be feeling that heartbreak within him. Right. But what I was saying and what I was doing was just making it more difficult, more heart wrenching for him until I went in and I did that soul work and taking time and recognizing because we can get so caught up on like, oh my goodness, like what am I going to do? This is right, no matter what the situation is. But just to step back, right? And on a soul level, we can have a conversation. We can have a visit with anybody at any time. And Elena, I can't remember exactly what it was, what you were mentioning, but oh, you were talking about there's some people that will just be all their lives, right? They're kind of back there, they're kind of observing, they're feeling, they're tapping in, and they don't speak unless they feel that it's really to be spoken, right? So being a medium and doing the work that I do, it's there's when you tap in, people think, well, I've had one or two people that have passed. But there's hordes from different lifetimes, right? It's like walking in, I would call it a go station. So I don't know what you guys have as far as like train stations or whatever, where everybody's coming at you at the opposite direction and you're walking. And so the souls that speak up, they're just like they were in their personality, right? When somebody walked into a room, you knew that they were there because they're bubbly and whatever. And then you had that more silent type, right? So even when we don't have our vehicle here, we still have the same aptitudes and personality above, where you might have that person that's always been quiet, more observer, more a feeler, and loves to watch everybody in that moment. They're going to be like that up in the divine too when they don't have their vessel or vehicle, right? So oh, so does anybody have any tools they'd like to share when it comes to when do we use our voice and when do we choose silence and reflection?
I can share that even though I can be so silent, I feel people deeply and I know what they need. And so I think that's what's always pulled me into being more extroverted. Because if I walk into a place, I see the people who are all by themselves. I know how that feels. I'm going to go engage with them. And it's fascinating how if I don't engage with others, it doesn't always feel like they engage with me. So the thing that I want people to have awareness is, where are you coming from when you walk into a room? Even if it's just the grocery store. Are you stuck here? Are you just like, I know what I need to do, and this is what I need to do, and this is what I think, and oh, I'm just going to speak from my mind, and I'm not even thinking about like anything else? Because if you're coming from here, right, we tend to think, oh yeah, that spirit coming through me, the words of God are just flowing through me. No, it's your head. And really, it can be, if that's the part of you that has been controlling you your whole life, you speak without thinking. You think you're speaking your truth. You're just speaking what you think you know. And your knowing really comes from more within the heart and the body, right? And if your heart is like, oh, there's a softness and there's a knowing, whether it's seeing a homeless person or somebody and you can just feel. But sometimes, again, you don't know what's going to happen and you're afraid to even engage because, oh, I can feel they're in pain. I don't want to deal with that. So you just avoid them, right? And so it's letting the words come from here, not always here. That even if you just really are genuine from the heart, you're going to take a breath, you're going to pause, and you're going to let your heart do the talking. And to me, that's when less is more. You're going to say the right thing. Doesn't even have to be much. It could just be, I'm sorry to hear that, or I'm sorry you're having a hard time, or whatever it is that they say. And you can just then ask, do you need a hug? Can I give you a hug? Can, put your hand on their shoulder, or share your love in some way. And I think that even if you were having a very hard conversation, if you got out of here and the proving and need to be right, and you just suddenly took the breath and, touched the person and said, wow, I can't even imagine what you're going through, or this sounds really hard, or I can see why you formed, you know, this belief, or you don't even have to say that, but I can see where you're coming from. It goes a long way, because in that moment, that person is going to feel seen and heard and felt and understood. And in that place, you're not understanding them. You're not standing under them. You're standing within that understanding piece of you're knowing yourself, and you're reading what's going on around you. And your awareness is actually going to be a gold mine of how you can be an incredible human to somebody else who really needs it.
I love that, Alana. I just wish we could take like our head and put it here, because it just invades and takes over so much. And exactly what you say, right, Alana? It's felt, it's an intuition, it's known, it comes from like the heart, it comes from the body. And it's tuning into that. It's not just spewing out and verbal diarrhea, right? Like it's something that is a known without question. And it is like it comes from a place of like that pure love and pure acceptance and compassion and empathy, right? On what is desired is here as on earth. And we're feeding that into the oneness. The more that we can all do that, it just lights up more and more and more. And it's absolutely beautiful. So thank you, Alana. Jacqueline.
Yeah, I think going along with what Alana mentioned, if you feel that you're busy and you're not really listening, you just heard some words and you feel this need to like jump in and say something and sometimes interrupt somebody, again, pause, take a breath. Life is really great when we're in the present moment and we're not worrying about something else or what I have to do next. When we can be present with our family and friends and actually be with them in that moment and let them know that we're listening, that we're not jumping in to fix them or whatever we try to do. I think that's the greatest gift is living in the present moment. And maybe just ask yourself, what's your agenda? Right? Like, how can I be more present for the people in my life, which might even give you some more energy and have you have more
Yes.
fun.
I love that, Jacqueline. On, yeah, what is our agenda or what is the intention, right? And feel that, right? Drop it down instead of just kind of thing. And it's just a whole different world, a whole different uh, presence. It's when we can just be, when we can have that empathy, that compassion, and we're not just spewing from here, like Alana said, and like you said, Alana. But I'm Jacqueline. It's heart, right? It's felt.
Yeah,
It's being.
yeah.
Because if we're spinning like everybody is right now, we can't take any love or healing or evolving of our soul if we're not embodying it and in the present moment. It's just kind of like going right by us, right? I remember years ago saying to Spirit, Spirit, why do we have to drive or travel to get somewhere? Why can't we just fly here, like fly to get where we're going? And they're like, because you've been bypassing so many experiences that you could have along the way. And I'm like, okay, but I can feel that and know that, but I still don't like the answer to that. But it's so true, right? And so just if we're spewing from here, right? If we're just, um, we're not living from that place of love and being in the moment, then we can't take it with us when we're no longer in this vessel or vehicle. So thank you, Jacqueline, so much for sharing. And I would say, right, when it comes to feeling out that, okay, am I going to speak or am I going to have silence and reflection, right? Uh, are you in your conditioned self? Are you in that ego or are you in your authentic self? Are you just spewing because it's a buildup? Um, have you tried different ways rather than just the physical body way, right? Have you, tried connecting with that soul on a soul level, soul to soul, right? It removes all that ego, right? It removes all that defensiveness. Um, and two, is it something to do with your journey that you're trying to use your voice around, or is it something to do with somebody else's journey, right? And you're trying to tug and pull. Are you cleaning up your cords with people, right? We're energy, and we have every experience we have with people. If we know them, we don't know them. If it's somebody at a gas station, we have an energetic cord that can pull us in and out, right? And we get so many experiences and cords with people that are close to us that it mangles out that healthy cord, right? Just so cut down, cut, tomorrow I'm going to take a day of solitude, and I know that there's a couple of people that I'm going to go in and clean up our energetic cord. It's not because it's been awful or hurtful or anything. It's just time. And I know that without a doubt. So I have to make that commitment to myself on, okay, I got to go in and do some energy cord cutting here. Um, and the other thing too is sometimes we can be in so much fear about should we say it or what should we say it or how did they interpret it, and it gets so far from the core of the truth, right? And sometimes we just have to trust and give it back up there, right? And to let it unravel, let it way it's going to unravel, and we can be our best pe people and soul around supporting that, because sometimes we can put all our energy into someone or a situation, and it doesn't really involve us. Or, you know, maybe they're just in denial about it. And no matter how much you say till you're blue in the face, or how much energy force, or every angle that you try to go at, the only person it's really hurting is yourself, right? It's depleting you, maybe making you not be yourself, maybe taking your life energy from you and your energy. Well, Alana just popped off. All right. Well, thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you for Alana. Alana, you probably had to, I'm just noticing the time here. I wasn't looking at the time, so you probably have to go into a meeting. But thank you, Jacqueline. Everybody have a delightful week and enjoy all moments.